Convicts Thoughts, I'm ARHayes. Can the DNA evidence get any crazier than it already is? Not long ago, if you hit the rewind button, and we're talking about the Idaho 4 case, where a young man is sitting at the defendant's table awaiting a trial in which his life is on the line as the death penalty is being sought. We're talking about the quadruple homicide of Xana, Ethan, Kaylee, and Maddie. Four beautiful souls. Justice needs to be had not only for these four, but all the families involved as well. The community deserves it. But it's just getting crazier and crazier, ladies and gentlemen. The one piece, the strongest piece of evidence that could literally bury anybody in a crime like this, you would think. A knife sheath with actual DNA found at the crime scene, literally feet from one of the victims that lost their lives. That puts someone pretty much at the scene, right? Well, as we keep learning more about this said DNA and how maybe the person was never even in the home that the DNA is on the sheath, it could possibly have been transferred. That's interesting in its own self. It takes a lot of explaining when your DNA is at a crime scene, but if it could be explained away as something as simple as he never even had to be there for his DNA to be there, well, it's hard to understand. For a guy like me, I don't know a lot about the DNA process. I don't care to. When I was convicted of my crimes, they quickly took my DNA and they put it into the system called CODIS. No matter what now, for the rest of my life, if any of my DNA is ever at a scene, they can immediately pinpoint it right to me. All they gotta do is go to their simple system, which evidently the DNA's first step when it was found on this knife sheath was to be sent to the state crime lab to be ran through CODIS. It happens all the time, ladies and gentlemen. It's quick. It's an easy, simple process. It'll give you an answer quick. Nothing. He was not in the system. This DNA was not in the system. Meaning, it wasn't a prior criminal. A prior criminal's DNA would be in the system. So we know. No earlier offenses, no convictions of any sort of felony, and even some misdemeanors had to put it in the database as well. So we know it has to be a first-time offender or somebody that's never been caught before. Okay, well now we move forward. What's the next step, many would ask? Well, of course, they got to learn how to appropriately analyze said DNA evidence to try to find its match. How do you do that? Well, there's different ways, evidently, that law enforcement has. Obviously, you've got many of experts within the field. We've actually had experts already testifying on this very IgG concept, which we're going to get into here in a second, in the Idaho 4 case in motion hearings. We had experts, literally people that know the process, know the ins and the outs of it. They all spoke. Now, today, we've learned the DNA that was found on the knife sheath that went through the CODIS was sent off to a lab. We don't know where the lab is. It's never been specified. The rumblings are becoming more and more evident because they're being confirmed by the prosecution. It was a genealogy company. Most of those don't allow for law enforcement to do any sort of searches within their database, nor can they upload a DNA sample to find its said family tree. So let's just imagine real quick This DNA sample gets sent off to said lab. The lab begins working on the process. It gets it into its system. So a little bit of a demonstration. It gets into their system. DNA sample. We're just going to use an envelope. Looks just like this. It's a DNA sample. Boom. Here it is. So what's the big deal about that, right? Because if the FBI steps in at this point and they say, hey, hold on. We're going to take this over. We don't want to risk anything to go wrong, which I'm going to give a different opinion about that in just a second. But the FBI says, we're going to take this over. We're going to take this DNA information back and we're going to process this. We're going to take it. We're going to build the family tree. We're going to do all the said work. Okay, great. DNA sample in the system. Here's the problem. When the IgG lab, the genealogical lab, stops working on the said DNA that's in its system, and they upload it to send it to a different entity, in this case the FBI. That should arrive at the FBI as the same DNA, right? It's uploading the system, the file should just transfer, same DNA. It doesn't work that way. When the DNA gets their hands on it and begins doing their work, the said original SNP DNA that was uploaded has adapted itself and changed. You no longer are using this one because the genealogical site had this. However, in the transfer, it adapted. It changed itself. So now, the FBI seems to be working with a different sample. That's why Mr. Thompson, the prosecutor of the Idaho 4 case, became the expert testimony at the last motion hearing, talking with the judge, trying to explain it. And the judge flat asked him, well, under my understanding, we had one SNP DNA profile. But now, I'm hearing there's two. And the prosecutor, nonchalantly, frustrated, obviously, says, you're right, Your Honor, yes. That is what it appears to be. Ladies and gentlemen, right there, we got to stop the whole ball game has to stop. Let's think about this. You're doing an investigation on somebody that you have their said DNA. This is before, ladies and gentlemen, any cheek swab or any finding of the garbage. This is building the said family tree. So the FBI is not working with the very same SMP profile that was even uploaded into the system. Again, I'm going to say that. It's not the same. It adapted. Now, for the longest time, this type of DNA, both touch and genealogical testing, was not great evidence to be presented within a trial. It was said to be very unstable, uncertain, which means reasonable doubt. So my question for you is, do two different DNAs and adapted compared to a normal, is that reasonable doubt? Could that be error of the process? Could that be why they are so adamant about not turning over this information? Is that why the prosecution's so nervous to turn over the IGG information? It's one simple answer to why. Error. Is there a possibility of error? We always have to calculate human error into everything that we do. Every investigation has to calculate itself out of what type of errors are made along the line. Can we prove that those errors did not affect the investigation? Well, let's talk about how this could not possibly. It had to have affected the investigation. Otherwise, they would proudly turn this over and cram it down the defense's throats and say, look at it all you want, it doesn't matter, we got you. They know that this big of an error is risking their entire case. You get the DNA tossed from this case, and it's over. This case is over. That's the one big swing of the bat home run hope that the prosecution has, is that DNA match. The cheek swab to the said touch DNA on the sheath is a perfect match. You can't say anything different. However that DNA got on that sheath, none of that matters. It's a perfect match. Completely damning. But let's back up. Why is everybody screaming that the original IgG testing that built the family tree and got the connection to this said defendant is not the reasoning why they got the warrant for his arrest? How is that not possible? Why are we even lying about that? Why are we even having to debate that? It's obvious to everybody. How is Bill Thompson, in his mind, assuming that people out here are so dumb we don't see it? We know how you got the arrest warrant. You didn't get it off cell phone pings. You didn't get it off a white car driving around in circles. What else did you have? What did you have? You got a perfect eyewitness that pointed right at him and said it was him? That would have been in the probable cause affidavit, locked it up, and this case would have been over a long time ago. It would have been done. You don't have it. You don't have that. What do you have that you could have possibly got this arrest warrant with, other than the DNA on the sheet being utilized through an IgG company testing lab that built the family tree and led to your said suspect? But the problem is, if the FBI, who does not work with SMP DNA, did actually do all the work, meaning they halted that genealogy company in its tracks and said, don't do what you're specialized in doing. We know that's fruit of the poisonous tree, so we're going to take it, we're going to do it ourselves so we don't jeopardize this case, because we're the FBI. We're on the up and up on every single thing that we do. We're going to handle this, we're going to do everything, but we're going to also do it in a way that we don't show any of our work. And if they request that when this gets into the neighborhood of going to trial, and we know it's going to be requested because that's definitely discoverable evidence, even though we don't think it is, and the prosecution's going to fight that it's not, but we know it is. By the time this gets to court, we're going to say we don't have it yet. We got to go through all these channels to get it, and then when it becomes time to get it, we stalled so much, we'll just claim we don't have it, and we're the FBI, and what are people going to do about it? You know, throw out a big major case, and the front of everybody's eyes on a quadruple homicide on a college town. You're going to throw the case out because the FBI says, we're bigger and better, and we're not going to show you our ways because we're special. You just have to trust us because we've been doing this forever with 0 false arrests. It's silly. It's head scratching. But what's even more head scratching is you got Bill Thompson being the one that's actually speaking to the judge as if he even has any idea what he's actually talking about. Yet you had numerous experts on the very thing called to the stand by a defense, and instead of the prosecution wanting to actually ask them questions, they instead decide again to reel in that FBI, because the FBI is untouchable. They can do what they want when they want, and they send them to said witnesses home to discuss a few things. That's not witness tampering at all. Not one bit. Never, never, because it's the FBI. They don't do that type of stuff. But immediately after that, you know what's even more funny about that? That's right. The prosecution puts in the order that they don't ever even need to call them to testify at trial. So if the defense calls them to testify, the prosecution doesn't even want to, we're not going to cross-examine, Your Honor. We have no questions for these experts in the very field of how we obtained the information to get the family tree. Because the FBI did it all. That's right. The FBI did it. Nobody can question that. They're perfect. They don't even need to keep records or notes. They don't need to show any steps that they use to get to this. Do you think any of us truly care to see the actual family tree? Do you even think the defense is going to spend that much time if, for some reason, that became discoverable? The family tree, they're going to sit there and look at every name on it? They don't care. They don't care. Show the process. We're trying to catch you in a lie in the process, and you just keep burying it, using these excuses that they're really trying to find the names of his said family members. They want the process. Is anybody going to come out and be completely honest and say, Your Honor, I think there could possibly be an error due to the fact the original that was in the system adapted into a new form of ID or a new form of DNA? Hence why this is not used at trial very often. We're getting better at it, though. It just still has a few glitches. How do you take a man to trial on a death penalty case with, well, we just have a few adaptations and just a few glitches? I know it's really kind of reasonable doubt, but we're hoping that most aren't smart enough to see the reasonable doubt in this case. The mounds and mounds and mounds of evidence that so many claim should have been brought forth early to nip these types of issues in the hiney quick. Or they don't have it. They don't have a clear photo of the car, otherwise they would have released that still picture immediately when looking for the car, asking for help. Or were they never asking for help? Was that a mind game, like some are beginning to feel like, hey, we're zoning in on you and we're giving you the clues to do so that maybe you'll run across the United States and we can use a different jurisdictional way of getting you arrested? It's an odd way to do it, let me tell you. A quadruple homicide You don't really want a suspect that's capable of committing that type of crime driving all across your country until you can finally pin him down. Doesn't make sense. It almost, you know, I was thinking about the other night, because I love watching great content creators out there that bring up very valid points. And, you know, you start to put these little points together and it creates thoughts in your mind that you can go back and you can kind of talk about and you can relate to it. It makes sense. That's why we all like to watch it. We grasp it. We understand it. Yeah, I mean, this defendant wears gloves all the time. He wears gloves to shop at Albertsons. He wears gloves to separate his trash at his parents' house. Surprised he wasn't wearing gloves when we see him on the body cam get pulled over in Indiana twice. Surprise, surprise, right? He only does it at the odd times that the police claim that he does, yet they have no proof that he does. But, you know, let's take it for what it is. He'll wear gloves in all of those circumstances, but anytime he handled the sheath, he would, you know, not wear gloves, just trust the fact he would clean it well enough to not leave his own DNA on it. Okay, yeah, if you want to believe that, sure. Everybody says that he's so smart, he was able to almost commit the perfect crime. Well, when I look at it, there's nothing smart about if this really was this defendant, and you got all this stuff on him, he really wasn't that smart. Not at all. It's a piss poor, committer of a crime. And I'm not saying that I was always great at what I did either. I got caught too, but damn, I never left this type of trail of evidence. I got snitched out and many other things, but I didn't make these mistakes. I think I would go through a checklist in my head and be able to knock off some of these. My own cell phone? No. My own car? No. Leaving a knife sheath at the crime scene? Well, I would have never brought the knife sheath to the crime scene. Driving around for 45 minutes before entering so my car could be seen every chance it got on camera? I doubt it. No. Doesn't make sense to me. But if you say so, if that's, the game plan. But legitimately what this comes down to, ladies and gentlemen, are you comfortable in knowing, without seeing said steps taken to process the DNA? Because we all know, it's already been said, we're not going to see this stuff. Even though the judge has ordered it, and he wants to review it in his office like he has any idea what he's looking at, but he's going to be the one that makes a decision on what the defense can get. Rather than it just all being discoverable, he knows DNA so well, he understands all this so well, he's going to make the decision. Another joke. But what makes anybody actually believe for 1 second this info is going to be made available to the defense? I get it, it's ordered. Do you think the FBI cares? Do you think they really care? They just made the statement. They were back at the 1122 King Road home doing more analyzing and work, investigative work, to build the said models that were going to be utilized at trial. The visual and audio displays that take months upon months to create. They didn't do those back when the case was hot and breaking and there was a chance it was going to trial, right? Why now? Why not for that trial? You don't think it would have been important to get on that right away? You had the crime scene, you could have jumped right on it and did it. Instead, you put a big fence up on it, you let the owners give it to the university, and then you kept shaking your head, yes, it should be torn down, it's totally ready, totally ready. So, at no point did you ever think that those visual and audio displays would have been key in the first trial if it had come. Wouldn't have been necessary, but now they are. You're going to go back and recreate your work for the DNA process? Are you going to build it all up? You're going to show us exactly how you did it a year later? I doubt it. But hey, I gotta give it credit. I gotta give it credit. B. Thompson, big man, prosecutor, speaking like an expert, even getting frustrated because you know your DNA evidence isn't worth squat and it should never be admitted. Should never be admitted into trial. Your arrest warrant should never have been validated. This entire case, it's all garbage. It's all garbage. You just gotta wonder if that garbage is actually in the neighbor's trash and walked out by somebody wearing gloves. It's trash. I don't care what people outside of the normal everyday people that can see the reasons why there's doubt. I'm not talking to the people that have found him securely guilty already. I can't talk to you. There's no sense that you're going to take out of anything that I say or what others say. There's no sense to be made for you. You've got it. You're a done deal. He's guilty. But for those of us that really, really care about our rights and really care about our justice system and how it works appropriately and how investigations happen and they take time, let's take into a sense another case I'm really diving into, Amber Spradlin. It's another horrific crime just like this. 5 people in the home and a young lady lost her life, stabbed. None of the 5 seemed to know anything, didn't hear nothing, didn't see nothing. But the investigation is still ongoing because they're building a case. They're building a case. That's typically how this works. Many times I thought I'd gotten away with something because there had been time. And more time, and I thought, man, I really did get away with it. And then, bam, out of the blue, they nailed me. They built a case. No case was built in the Idaho 4. This was a scrambling, we got to arrest somebody quick. Oh no, he drove across the country, we need to go get him. So we need to backdoor some DNA evidence. Let's figure this out, how to backdoor it. We'll claim we threw away all of our notes. It's a small community. It probably won't get the big headlines. We'll be able to do this under the table, sweep it away, and just be done with it. And now, it's a United States nightmare because there are wide eyes watching. Most of them have reasonable doubt. Great to see you guys again. Got the extra hour tonight, so I think I might just dive into some other videos. Hope to see you at those. A Convict's Thoughts. I'm ARHayes. Have a great night.